Welcome to the AIM Spotlight Series. I'm Dr. Karina Testa, owner of AIM Sports Medicine and Physical Therapy in Hermosa Beach, and I'm the host of the AIM Spotlight Series. With us today is someone I deeply respect and I know that you will learn from, Manette Jen McDermott, also known as Mama Moon, and she is one of the founders of Muun Chi in North Redondo Beach. Her store makes and sells all plant-based foods and drinks, and Manette goes by the motto, changing lives one gut at a time. Her passion is helping people use food as medicine. So thank you, Manette, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. And I
Thank
love
you.
talking about the gut.
Good. So I guess I want to start with how you actually got into this field. I know you have a PhD in linguistics. So how did you do a pivot to making plant-based foods?
That is such a great question. Such a great question. So I was always fascinated with the body, and I was pre-med, but as I studied all about the body, I was fascinated with the brain. And that's how I got into studying how language is processed and developed in the brain. But as I grew older in my experiences in life, I realized that one of my specialties was helping people with their wellness, with their health. And no matter what they were dealing with, whether it was a mental challenge, an emotional challenge, dysregulation, I was always able to help them through the gut. And so I started studying the gut. And now I'm fascinated with how language is processed in the gut and how does the gut speak to us. And that's what I
So
focus
interesting.
on in
That
terms
is
of
so interesting.
it is fascinating.
Yeah.
The gut whispers to us in many different ways. And then we learn over time how to address whatever they're trying to tell us. The gut.
Love that. Love that. Well, and I think you said at one point that you used to be a sugar addict.
That's correct.
So how did that play into this whole plant-based food thing? Because I know that none of your products even have any sugar in them.
Exactly. Exactly. So when I found that I started to have issues, and it was right around when I turned 50. So that's 20 years ago, I was experiencing so much pain. And it got to the point where I could not function. I was
Wow.
walking, barely able to drive, but it was so debilitating that the doctors were asking me to have surgery. And I went to three different doctors. It was either surgery or it was going to be cortisone. And I said, I don't do any of those. But the timing of it all was very fascinating because at the time there was this thing going around where you should eat anti-inflammatory foods.
Yes.
And my daughter asked me to join her on this journey of anti-inflammatory foods. And I said, oh, I would love to, but I don't give up sugar, right? I can't give up sugar because I have to have my sugar. But she convinced me to do it for 1 week. So I did it for 1 week and I started to feel a little bit better.
Ah,
But I didn't want to tell her. I just said, oh, good, I'm done with it for the week. And then she said, do it for one more week, Mom, please. So I did it for one more week. And by the end of the second week, it was gone. My pain was gone. I mean, not
wow.
improved, but it was actually gone. And so I thought, wow, that's amazing. I did not know that food had that impact on my body.
Yeah.
So I started looking for foods that didn't have any refined sugar. Couldn't find any.
Yeah.
Everything had refined sugar in it, or they had a name for the sugar replacement. So I started making my own, and then everyone was, can I have some of that? Can I have some of that? Including all of her friends. And so I thought, wow, maybe there is something to what I'm doing, and maybe there's a market for it. But I still wasn't convinced that it was healing anybody. I just thought this is an alternative to people who don't want to eat sugar. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, my mom was having some gut issues. So I thought, wow, what I helped her with her gut. So I started making food for her gut. She was dealing with severe constipation. And when I started to fix her, it was amazing because she convinced me to share it with her friends. So I started sharing it with all of her friends. They all got off Metamucil. They all felt better.
Wow.
And then I thought, wow, I think I should start working on the gut more. And that's when I really got into not only developing products for the gut, but really studying how does the gut work and what is it about the gut that is making all of this possible. Sorry about this. This is Thursday when the gardeners come about. So I'm now stepping into my fermentation kitchen. Um, sorry. But as I started to really study the gut, that's when I started to get to know and get very familiar with all these different microorganisms that rule the gut and determine what our body needs in terms of healing.
So what were some of those first products that you made for yourself and then for your mom?
Very good question. So my mom is dairy free. I'm also dairy free. So
Okay.
I needed to make something that did not have any dairy. And what I ended up focusing on was kefir. So
Okay.
kefir is the most ancient of all of the probiotic microorganism colonies.
Okay.
And this particular um, group of microorganisms were part of the very beginning of Earth. And so these microorganisms were passed down generation to generation. And when I was starting to make this stuff, it loves dairy and they survive on dairy. So they go about eating the sugars that are in dairy. But because I was trying to get them to grow in an environment that did not have any lactose, they kept dying. And so the ones that I was able to rescue, I call them my little survivors, my thrivers. And it took me a year to make them.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Well, and
I was
what does the kefir come from? Like, where does that start from?
it starts from it started in, so let's say they began, they don't really know how it exactly began because it was so long ago, but they've been able to replicate their uh their growth in sheep herders leather bags. So they would be carrying around their milk in these leather bags, and then they'd get home and the milk would be tart, and they thought, whoa, do I throw this away? No, I'm going to save it. And they started drinking it and they all started to feel better. And they started using it medicinally with their children. And they realized that every time it would culture, there'd be these little clumps that look a lot like cottage cheese. And
Okay.
they would save these clumps to make another batch. And as these clumps continue, they love to grow.
Yeah.
So as these clumps continue to grow in different medium, they now are able to multiply and become even stronger.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Mhm.
And then when did you first start the store here in Redondo?
So we opened the store in November of 2022.
Okay. So it's just
So
a few years.
just a few years, but I've been doing this for many years and I started in the farmers markets.
Ah, okay. So you
Yeah.
started, and what were some of the first products that were successful in the farmers market?
So when I first started, I just had two products. It was the cocoa kefir. So it's our
Hmm.
coconut milk that's been fermented with kefir.
Okay.
Then I also had a kvass, and the kvass is really amazing because what I do is I take the coconut milk, cocoa kefir, we call it cocoa kefir.
Hmm.
We now, when I age that and make our non-dairy cheese, that creates a liquid whey. And the liquid whey is what I use to create all of our kvassas.
Wow. So nothing wasted, huh?
Nothing wasted. And that's really what we're all about. We're all
Yes.
about nothing wasted. So our number one landfill is food waste. And
Hmm.
so instead of throwing everything away, and I'm going to show you what our kvassas look like when they're fermenting. You
Wow.
see them?
So what is in these jars?
These are, we've got turmeric and ginger, we've got the yellow beet, we have apple peel, lemon peel, black pepper, cinnamon bark. See the cinnamon bark in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a red one that looks like this. And this one is our red beet, ginger, orange peel, banana peel. I know.
Amazing.
How did I ever think to put all that stuff in there?
That was my next question. Like, who decides, hey, I'm going to save all the peels?
Well, that's the thing. So as I was learning all about the environment and how we were so connected to the environment and nature, I realized that there was so much that we were throwing out that were high in nutritional value, and sometimes even higher than the fruit itself. So I would go around, and this is no joke, going to all the organic juicers. There were a lot at the time when I was doing this. Now there are not as many because we're finding that juicing can sometimes just be too much sugar. But at the time, I would go in and I'd say, "Oh, excuse me, but what are you doing with your peels?" "Oh, we throw them out." And it's like, "Oh, I'll take them." And so I started collecting banana peels, orange peels, lemon peels from all these juicers. And I had literally in garbage bags. I was
Oh
carrying
my
around
gosh.
in garbage bags because I was able to collect so much. And I started to make vegetable snacks and fruit snacks out of them, just as to experiment. But then as I saw that how valuable they were in terms of nutrition, I started putting them in food safe containers. And then I thought, gosh, I wonder how I can preserve these. These are really good. And at the time, I got a call from a gentleman who had been eating my cocoa, was loving it. He said, "I feel so much better now that I've been eating that. But I'm a competitive cyclist and I've been drinking this really nasty stuff and it's called kvass. And I get mine from Vermont. Could you make me one that I like? Because I hate the taste of the one I'm
Yeah.
getting from Vermont, but it's improving my numbers." And at the
Oh,
time, I was making a kvass for my mom, who now had Parkinson's. And she at that time had um, I had to be on a tube, a feeding.
mm,
So the
yeah.
cocoa fear was no longer working for her. So I started making the kvass so it could go right through the tube. But it didn't really matter about the taste. So when the fellow who called me, his name was Leo, said, "Can you make me one?" I said, "Sure, I can make you one that tastes great." And I hung up. I thought, no, I got to figure out how to make one that tastes good. So I added to my mom's kvass the banana peel, the orange peel, the ginger, and then I had this kvass. And I asked Leo, I finished fermenting it. "Do you want to try it?" He goes, "I'd love to try it." So he tried. He goes, "Oh my God, this is so much better than I've been drinking." So I started making it for Leo and my mom. But then as it grew, he started telling his friends. So everything that we do at Muun Chi is word of mouth. So he felt that he needed to tell all of his friends. His friends started ordering it. My mom started telling all of her friends. And that's just how we grew. And
That's
then
great.
one of his friends was a hairdresser. And once that hairdresser, I don't know what about hairdressers, but he started telling all of his clients, and they all started ordering it and storing it in. I would bring the product, he would store it in his refrigerator in the salon. They'd come and get their hair done, and then they'd pick up product. So
Oh
they
my
were taking
gosh.
care of the inside and the outside, and it just grew that way. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Well, tell me a little bit about a common problem that you help solve for your clients. What's the most common thing people come in and see you for?
that's a great question. The most common, I would say, digestion wide would be acid reflux.
Okay.
In terms of overall wellness, would be sleep.
Sleep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. A
A lot
lot
of
of
people
problems
start.
there.
Yep, yep. So just helping people sleep, and that was also accidental too, because as I was developing these different products, the kvass became very high in demand, and everyone was saying, "I feel so much better." I never thought I would be able to get rid of my bloatedness, but my bloating is gone. I feel so much better. But is it true that I could it be impacting my sleep? I said, "Hmm, that's good to hear." But I didn't really know. Well, I didn't look for the ingredients that were going to help people sleep. But I also didn't know that that was a problem that people had because I was sleeping really well. So
Yeah.
as people would communicate to me at the farmer's market that they were all sleeping better, I started to do the analysis, trying to look at why is this happening. And sure enough, the banana peel was enough that it was giving the product magnesium, high levels of magnesium,
Ah,
potassium, and manganese. So all the things that we improve with, I mean, our sleep improves when we ingest that. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
Wow. That was a great discovery because I know a lot of people have issues with sleep and that just is a snowball in and of itself.
exactly.
Amazing. And
And
what is, go ahead, sorry.
one of the problems with sleep being interrupted is having to get up and go to the bathroom.
Yes. Yep.
And I know I used to have to do that, but then when I started drinking the kvass, I didn't have to do that anymore. So when people were telling me this, I was thinking, I wonder what it is. Well, just as I was hearing all of this from all the people who were purchasing it, this study came out of Harvard where they looked at why some people have to get up and go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And they always had thought that it was weak bladder, aging bladder,
Aging.
weak
Yep.
pelvic floor. No, it was missing microorganisms in the microbiome of their urinary tract. So when they were able to balance their gut microbiome, their urinary tract microbiome got balanced. The bugs that were responsible for letting them not feel the urge to pee, they
Mm-hmm.
started to proliferate, and now they don't have to get up and go to the bathroom.
So no more having to cut off your water at 6 p.m.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's a very interesting finding as well. That must
Hmm.
be so helpful for so many people.
Yes, very helpful.
I love that. So how you've kind of talked a little bit how you've come up with some of your foods just by people asking and kind of by chance, but I know you have so many different products now. How do you come up with all these different things? Where do the ideas come from?
That's such a cool question, and it's a difficult one to answer. But I do a lot of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, sometimes you just come out of my meditation and I know exactly what I need to make.
Love that.
You do a lot of listening to customers.
Okay.
When they come in and they'll ask me, do you make this? Do you make that? I'm dealing with an issue that I really want to get rid of. And so I'll ask them, well, what's your condition? And as I listen to their condition, I know enough about food and the individual functional benefits of each plant. I start to meditate on those plants, how I might be able to combine them to make a product that's going to help this person. And
Love
that's
that.
how a lot of our products come about. Just the understanding that food and every single plant on this earth has an individual functional benefit, and then knowing that and combining it with other plants then allows me to help people with gallbladder issues, liver issues, but they're all going to be connected to the gut. So
Love
having the
that.
gut microbiome be the foundation of it all, and then how the gut bugs then talk to the different organs, communicate how to get fixed. These products now can address different conditions.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about that because there's so much out there about taking a probiotic or taking a prebiotic or taking this or that, and there's so many different commercial products. Can you break it down for someone like me that doesn't fully understand all this? What is the difference between a prebiotic, a probiotic, and I know some of your products are both pre and pro
Yes,
together.
yes. So when you hit the word commercial, that's
Yes.
a very key word because probiotics and prebiotics come in nature. They are in fermented foods and they're in our plants. But the industry, the commercialized industry of
Hmm.
pharmaceuticals and food, they want to take advantage of that. So a lot of people think, oh, probiotic comes in a pill or a powder or a drink. It's much more about these living microorganisms that are in our food that are either fermenting or growing. So
Okay.
every single plant has a bunch of different microbes living on and in it. And then when you ferment it, it now expands in its nutritional value and its microbial count. When you take a pill that's a probiotic or a probiotic pill or prebiotic pill, you're now taking a one size fits all that the pharmaceutical or food industry has decided on their own. Most people need this. Let's see if they'll buy it. And then
Yeah.
we can sell a lot and make a lot of money. Well, the problem is sometimes you're going to be taking strains that your body doesn't actually want. And because every microbiome is very unique and very individual, you could cause disruption to a microbiome that's trying to balance. So the microbiome is always going to want to balance. So the difference between a probiotic and a prebiotic. Probiotic is the seed that you plant in your garden. Now you're
Okay.
going to want to get that seed to grow and become something magnificent. You're going to feed it a prebiotic. So
Ah, so it's the
every,
food.
yes, exactly.
Yes. I
So
love that.
prebiotic is always, always going to be in the plant form, and you're never, ever going to find it in a pill. But there are a
Yeah.
lot of prebiotic pills out there that have been manufactured or processed to imitate or synthesize what's happening in nature. Does that make
So
sense?
yeah, it does makes that makes a lot more sense now. And I would assume then that the body can utilize the microbiomes that come or the little what do you call them? The little bugs,
Little bugs.
the bugs, the microorganisms that come from actual food and plants differently than ones that come in a capsule.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's what Moon Chi is about. It's about only getting your nutrients and your supplements through real food.
I love that.
These little microorganisms are designed by nature to recognize real food. So what's happened over time is the industrialization is now making processed foods that these little bugs actually don't recognize. So
Yeah,
sugar is an example. The only food in the food chain that has zero nutrients. So when you ingest a refined sugar, the body's little microorganisms go, I'm not sure what this is. Oh, there are no nutrients. This must be a poison. It's not food. If it were food, it would be fiber, polyphenols, resistant starch. It would be something that the little bugs would be able to do something with, take
got it.
information from. But
Yeah.
because sugar doesn't have any information other than zero nutrients, the body goes, oh, I think I need to protect the body. Oh, let me see. I'm going to go put it in that cancer cell, or I'm going to go store it in some fat. It's going to look for ways to keep you alive. So sometimes it's going to be in the form of inflammation. Sometimes it's going to be able to detox and get rid of it. But a lot of times, because cancer loves sugar, refined sugar, it will get stored in a cancer cell. We all have cancer cells. Some of them will grow, some of them won't grow. But the more we feed it refined sugar, the more we increase the chances that it's going to find a cancer cell that is going to blow up. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Well, and you also mentioned inflammation. So a lot of our patients in physical therapy are always battling inflammation and pain, whether it be from an injury or just in general. How does the gut health aid the healing process for that?
exactly. Every time we eat a food that is not from nature, that is not whole in its ability to give the body information, anything that's processed, that includes powders, pills, um, cakes, breads, all of those have to be processed by the part of the microbiome that loves processed foods. It's kind of like the lazy bugs.
Yeah.
Lazy bugs don't want to have to work very hard. Okay. But what happens is if these bugs keep getting fed, they now dominate the microbiome. Healthy microbiome is dominated by the functionally beneficial ones. So if you've got a gut that is highly inflammatory, being
Hmm.
fed foods that are processed, it is now going to affect the whole body. Why? Because every time you eat a processed food, but especially a refined sugar one, it'll tend to put little leaks into your lining. The lining of your gut is only one cell thick. So when that happens, you now have particles of food, debris in your bloodstream. The bloodstream is going all the way through every part of your body.
Right.
And in that, inflammation happens because the body wants you alive. So
Yeah.
its
Yeah.
first initial response is going to be, I've got to inflame. I've got to make sure she's okay. So she's going to get inflamed. If we continue to do it, we now have chronic inflammation. We continue to do it, it develops into chronic pain. Then we continue to do it, it now becomes chronic disease. Does that make
I
sense?
see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when our patients, is there anything that our patients can do when they're trying to recover from an injury and might have more acute type of inflammation in their system? Is there anything they can do on the food end of it to support them in their healing?
Love that question. Love that. Because yes, acute inflammation is going to be very different from chronic inflammation.
Right.
But when they two of them are together, oh man, that is difficult. So when we are dealing with an acute inflammation, we're always going to suggest that they see a PT, that they suggest somebody who is specializing in acute inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to support it by saying
Yes.
there's foods that you can take that will actually help the healing go faster. So
Yes.
as you do your PT, as you do your physical movement, I don't know enough about it to be able to say anything other than I think you're supposed to be doing ice and heat alternating. I'm gonna be like talk to your doctor or your PT, right? But I am definitely gonna say there are definitely foods that are going to improve and make the healing process faster. So there
Yes.
are going to be certain foods that are very good at anti-inflammation. One of them is turmeric,
Okay.
and we love turmeric. Our turmeric, we don't do powders. They're finding turmeric powder. A lot of them are laced with gold metal, and
Oh,
this metal looks a lot like the turmeric, but it's so much cheaper.
okay.
Turmeric is very expensive. So we always get our turmeric in the root form.
Mm-hmm.
We prefer to get it from Fiji or Hawaii, where the soil is really clean. So you'll find when you're using your food as a whole, as opposed to a powder, you're going to have access to more bioavailability. And with the turmeric, we're always going to suggest that it's with some black pepper.
Okay.
Becomes that becomes even more bioavailable once you can make that combination. But there are a lot of foods that are anti-inflammatory.
That's great because we do get a lot of patients who, in the process of their recovery, are always asking us, are there any foods that we should eat, or is there anything we should take just to help from the inside out while we're working on the outside in?
That's
So
beautiful.
love that. So there's definitely things that you make or products that you make that could aid these patients that are looking for a way to use their diet to help them heal as well.
Exactly. So for another example would be improving the quality of the blood and
Okay.
blood flow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where when you do that, the inflammation will also go down, but the ability of the cells, the endothelial cells, now to make more nitric oxide is now going to give your blood richer oxygenated blood. And in
Okay.
that oxygenated blood, you're going to feel the anti-inflammation happening in all parts of your body.
I love that because we always say that the more blood flow you can get to an area, that is how we heal. If
Ex-
you don't have blood flow, things die.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, we see that in diabetics and that end up with neuropathies. But if you don't have blood flow, you can't heal without that. So I love that. I love
Exactly.
that. What would you say, Manette, are some common mistakes people make before they come to you?
Mm. Well, sort of in my book, there are no mistakes.
Okay.
Everything that we've done is meant to be, so
Yes. Yeah.
wherever we are in our journey of life, we're going to be taking the right or the left or the straight road, whatever it is, we're going to run into obstacles or opportunities to learn. So when it's time for the learning to take place, people who walk into Muun Chi, they're like, I am so ready to get off of these meds or whatever it is that they're wanting to change in the trajectory of their life. They usually come in really prepared to make that change. They're
Okay,
really
that's good.
curious. They're looking for can I find another way to do this? Because the pills that I've been taking have been damaging my kidneys or damaging my liver. They're learning as they go along. And I think sometimes people will feel angry at themselves for having made a different choice. And
Yeah.
that's never going to be helpful to the body's healing. So I always say it's never really a mistake. It's much more the opening of a door now that is going to see, oh my gosh, there is hope for me. It's not too late. It's never too late, right?
Yeah.
So as we learn that it's never too late and we can see how powerful these foods are, it is amazing how they have helped people.
Well, and I know you've told me before that the microbiome you can change that makeup fairly quickly.
Yes.
How long does it take?
So everyone's going to be different,
Okay.
but they've done scientific studies looking at that because that is probably one of the number one questions. And they said within 4 days, they
Wow.
change. I
I
know.
didn't realize it was that fast.
Yeah. And I've been able to actually see it in one night. So people will come in and they'll say, well, how am I going to be able to live with this and expect me to like how long is it going to take? And I'll say, everyone's different.
Right.
um, it took that many years for you to finally, experience the pain. Maybe it's going to be taking that much years to not experience the pain, but it could happen overnight, depending on what condition you're trying to fix.
Well, and I think yours went away in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
just cutting out
exactly.
sugar.
Exactly. Excuse me just a second.
Hmm.
When I talk too much, I have to get my swig of water.
Yes.
Um, so mine was able to totally deflame in 2 weeks. I missed my sugar, so I introduced it the next day after the 14 days. Boom, it came back.
Oh no.
So for me, my trigger was definitely the sugar
Yeah.
because I was able to introduce all the other foods that I also had gotten rid of. I was fine. But I realized that because everyone is so different, I wanted to be able to create, when I created Muun Chi, foods that people could trust if their trigger was different, if it was gluten,
Hmm.
if it was dairy, if it was soy, that they have the choice here to choose a food that they know is not got any any inflammatory properties.
Well, since you're talking about choice, I know that you have some sweets, some sweet
Mhm.
treats in there. Tell me a little bit about those yummy things, the chocolates that you make that are also super healthy for you.
Yes, they are. We make these cacao treats that we actually ferment with a little bit of our cocoa beer. So they're considered probiotic. So you'll be getting a little probiotic benefit when you eat them. But we don't use any refined sugar and there's no dairy in them. And we get our cacao raw in the raw form from a rainforest in Costa Rica. And how I found this gentleman was just amazing. So I have a gentleman who was coming in on a regular basis. He was loving all of the stuff, helping his gut. And he started to do yoga retreats around the world And one of them was in Costa Rica. And at this Costa Rican yoga retreat, it was on a rainforest path where they had taken the cacao from the rainforest and they started making their own raw cacao mini factory.
Wow.
And so he started bringing it to me from all of his yoga retreats. I loved it. It's of ceremonial quality. It's so pure.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how can I make this so that people can actually eat it? Because when you're eating it just with none of so we sweeten ours with a little bit of maple syrup.
Okay.
And we put it all together using coconut oil instead of dairy. We always add a little bit of Ceylon cinnamon and a little bit of almond butter. Why? Because both the almond and the cinnamon help regulate blood sugar so you don't have the spike. So as you eat these, you're not spiking your sugar levels, you're improving your microbiome gut, and you're getting that little need that we have to have something sweet. But because we're feeding the good beneficial bugs, the beneficial bugs are digesting it more slowly than the really inflammatory bugs. So they're looking for something instant. They're going to be
Hmm.
creating the dopamine trigger. They're going to be creating the craving that's going to say, go for another one, go for another one. But
Yeah.
when you're feeding the beneficial ones, they're working on it. They're going, whoa, wow, there's some almond butter in here. Oh my goodness. Oh, and what's this probiotic guy? And then as they're working together to digest this food, it's food because maple syrup has really good minerals. There's some nutrients in there. They're absorbing all of those nutrients and it's not empty. It's filled with all these good, beneficial functions that are now going to help your body. And cacao in this raw form has the ability to go into your bone marrow, look for stem cells, pull them out, and then have them travel around your bloodstream looking for things to heal. So
Wow.
that's crazy.
That's the super, super healthy chocolate. I think I could eat those every day.
So
So
that's how we
tell
started.
me what's that?
We started making those because we realized that um, the sugar industry and the food industry wanted us to get addicted. So
Yes.
that's why they made this form of sugar that was no nutrients, right?
Hmm.
But if you do it with the intent to provide minerals and nutrients, the body sees it as its original intent. And that was cacao was meant to help you, not hurt you.
Love that.
So as you're eating it, it's reconnecting to its first initial intention. Just as we, as little infants, came into the world drinking our mother's milk, there was a little sweetness in there. But
Hmm.
we weren't going there to be addicted to that sweetness. We were going there to get the nutrients from that milk. So it's reconnecting you to the sweetness of nature, which is always going to have fiber and some sort of nutrient.
I love that. Love that. So what would you say for someone that really wants to get started with this and but doesn't know where to start? How where do they begin with this journey of really using more healthy foods and the kvass and the cocoa to make their lives healthier? How should they start with this?
That's a great question because everyone's going to have a different intent as they experience what they want to heal. Will
Hmm.
really depend on what we're going to introduce or what we're going to recommend.
Okay.
So let's say someone comes in and says, I've got all this joint pain. I don't sleep. I've experienced a lot of neuropathy in my hands. I'm going to ask, do you like sugar? Because that was my problem.
Right,
Believe
right.
it or not, I had early macular degeneration. I had neuropathy. I had diabetes. I had arthritis. I had everything because sugar does that to your body. It inflames you. It wants to keep you alive. So I immediately go to, do you like sugar? And they'll go, yes, like, yeah, I eat it all the time. I'll say, well, are you interested in learning how not to eat it? I would love that, but I'm addicted to it. I have to eat my carton of ice cream. But I was the same way. I used to eat a carton of ice cream too. So what I'll do is I'll transition them by feeding them foods that we have that will feed the beneficial ones, not the inflammatory ones. And then at the same time, as they're being fed the beneficial ones, they're also getting the nutrients. So they're feeling satiated as they eat these products. So it's not an addiction, but it's
Yeah.
the satiety hormone kicking in. So that satiety hormone is something that our bodies naturally do. That is when they're being fed the right amount of fiber, the right amount of plants. They want to make the GLP-1, which is naturally produced by our body. So I'm going to start
Yeah.
with that. And I'm going to tell them, think about adding instead of having to stay away from the sugar. I did it the hard way.
Yes, you did.
It was miserable. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't do this. I can't. But as I work with people to transition them off, I always say we're going to be adding certain foods, feeding the beneficial ones, but also satisfying your need for a little bit of sweet every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know your products, just with the kvass and that type of thing, you don't have to have a lot of it,
No.
right? It's just a couple of ounces a day, or with the cocoa furs, it's what, 2 tablespoons a day?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So
So
it's not having to suddenly eat a ton of stuff.
exactly. And that is another thing that the food industry has wanted. And they want us to think that we have to eat a ton because they put in foods that are not only ingredients that are addicting, but they also do not put a lot of nutrients in there.
Yeah.
Your body
Fillers.
naturally to survive will always be looking for nutrients, right? So
Yeah.
as you eat that bag of chips, your body's not getting very many nutrients and it's going, oh my God, that salt was so good. I better eat another one. And then they're going to eat another and another and another, but always looking for more nutrients. So if you eat foods that are nutrient dense with a lot of information that's going to provide your cells the ability to give you more energy, you're always going to feel satiated after you eat a nutrient dense food.
I love that. I love that. So tell me, if someone wants to come into your store, what can they expect in that first visit with you?
I would sit and listen to what is it that they want to address. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to sleep better. Some people want more energy. Other people have very specific pain that they want to address. A lot of times it's going to be a gut related pain. Sometimes they're going to come in and they're going to say, I've been to 4 different doctors. No one's been able to fix me. Can you fix me? And then I'll say, I'll try, let me tell here, let me hear. So I prefer not to hear a label. Like people walk in and they'll go, I have IBS. I have Crohn's. I'll just say, can I just hear what you're dealing with? And then I'm going to address those different conditions because often we'll walk around with a label thinking that that label is always going to be a part of us,
Right, right.
right? When it's not. Like
Yeah.
somebody walks in and goes, I have diabetes. And I'll say, did anyone tell you that you could reverse that? Like, no, I didn't know that. I was like, yeah, we can help you. We can help you. So knowing that a label can sometimes be like putting you in a box, but just seeing that because we have all these conditions that fit that label, that's kind of the way our system has been designed because it then allows there to be a drug that is assigned based on that label. But then the insurance company pays the doctor. So that's
Right.
the way it works. Because we don't do any insurance and because we're not here to fix a symptom or address a symptom, we're here to actually try to go to the root of the problem. I love just starting with a blank slate. Like, just tell me what you're dealing with, and then we're going to try to figure out how we might improve it.
Yeah.
Try to see if we go to the root of the problem, can we improve your situation? I'm going to give you an example. a lot of people will come in with acid reflux.
Mm-hmm.
Initial um, prescription will be the doctor wants me to take a PPI, the
Yep.
proton pump inhibitor.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're finding a lot of connection and association with Alzheimer's and dementia if you are on it for a long time. So the PPIs were developed to be used a week or 2 weeks at most. But now people are allowed to use them all the time, as much
Right.
as you want. So I get people in all the time. I used to be on one and now I'm on two. Now I'm on three. The doctor wants me to take four. Like, what should I do? I don't feel any better. It keeps coming back. Well, the problem is the source of the problem and the root of the problem is not being addressed. The problem is not an overproduction, I mean, an underproduction. Wait, an overproduction of acid.
Overproduction. Right. Right.
It's an underproduction of acid in most cases. And then there's other possibilities, like the liver might not be giving you clean bile to help you break down the fat, and then you're going to feel that indigestion. So there are going to be a lot of possibilities. So what we'll work with is we'll try to work with the individual's um, description of when that happens and at what time of day, what kinds of foods might be involved. And then that helps us figure out whether it is an acid issue or a bile issue. Sometimes it's going to be a digestive enzyme issue, which will be the pancreas. But if you're always blocking the symptom, you're allowing the problem to continue. And then as you allow that problem to continue, it gets worse because the
Yeah.
body just wants to keep you alive. And
Yeah.
so as we experience listening to what is it that needs to be addressed, we're going to discover the source of the problem. And to fix it is going to be different for each person, depending on
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the pancreas, the liver, or the low acid,
Got it.
right?
Very individualized. That's what I'm
Very
hearing.
individual.
Very
Very.
individualized. I love that. I want to switch gears real quick to one of your other passions, which are your grandkids,
Aww.
which I know you love. How have you incorporated some of these foods with kids?
I love that. Oh, you hit it on the button. It's so critical that these children learn this way of eating at an
Yes,
early age.
so that they don't need us, need you when they're 50.
Exactly, exactly. So they come in usually with a fairly good microbiome, depending on what they've been through in terms of the birth canal. But usually it's pretty good. And then we get exposed to infections and then antibiotics. Not to put them down, antibiotics have saved many lives, but we have to be aware that there has been an overuse of antibiotics. As
Hmm.
a result, a lot of our microbiome gets destroyed during that or weakened. So the good thing is the microbiome is able to recover very well, but it has to be exposed to the right kinds of microorganisms. So if we're taking just probiotic pills and it's just not what we need, we're going to find them not effective. But if you're doing it through food, it's a great way to rebuild. So my little twins grandchildren, they came into the world early and they had to come in C-section because they were upside down and or should I say upside right side up. And so they didn't get a chance to go through the birth canal, where a lot of the mother's microbiome gets transferred to them. So, in their knowledge of this information, the doctor was able to give them swabs from the mother's vagina to help them populate their gut with some good ones. And then what we did as um, just connecting with her was making sure that her microbiome was healthy so that when the breast milk was given to the baby was going to be getting some of that.
That
But
makes
what,
sense.
what I'm learning with the grandchildren as they grow is that they get exposed to a lot of different foods,
Yes, they do.
especially when
A
they
lot
get,
of advertising.
yes, yes. And once they start going to little preschool or birthdays, they're going to be exposed to a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And then that's going to damage the lining of their gut and it's going to create that sugar addiction. So they get so excited when they're going to get to eat the ice cream or the icing on the cake or whatever it is. And what I always tell the children is that if we can continue to feed the good ones,
Hmm.
them as your friends, you want as many friends as you can have. So as you're eating your foods, you're going to be thinking, am I feeding my friends? And are
Right.
my friends going to be helping me? And then you think about the other ones that are more demanding, the ones that are causing the sugar craving. You see them as little organisms that are kind of troublemakers. They're like the ones that like to cause a little disruption. And the ones that are going to be your friends are the ones that you're going to feel calm and relaxation with. So when they pick up food, they always pick it up and they go, is this Gigi approved?
I love it.
And they'll still eat it if they want to eat it. So it's not like I ever say, don't eat that. They'll ask me questions. They'll say,
That's great.
is this Gigi? Is this good for me or is this bad? And as we talk about the food, they learn. Like, I'll say,
Yeah,
that's going to be good for your bones. You should eat that.
I love that.
That'll be good for your eyes. You should eat that. And so they become very curious about the food's function. And really, honestly, Karina, this is what I want for everyone to shift the way they relate to food. So instead of food controlling them, like, I've got to go get this cookie, I've got to go get this ice cream, it now becomes, how do I relate to the food's original intent? So this plant's intention was to help my eyes. This food's intention was to help my skin. So as I relate to that, I know, have I done anything for my eyes today?
Right. I
You know?
love that. That's a great approach. It's a much more proactive
Yeah,
and healthier way to look at food and how food can be medicine every single day, 3 times a day with 2 snacks.
exactly, exactly.
I love
Our
that.
bodies were never intended to be snacking all the time. And when I was a sugar addict, I was snacking all the time because I was
Yeah.
always low on
Yeah.
energy. When you eat this way, you're always filled with energy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. So we do make a lot of treats for the kids.
I love
The
it.
kids love the treats that we have here. And
Love it.
the really nice thing is that the moms communicate with me. So we have a couple of the kids who love our brownies. We make these veggie brownies. And they'll tell me, could you sneak in some Brussels sprouts? Have you tried to put in a little bit of the carrot? So I'll just sneak in all these different vegetables
Yeah.
into a brownie, and the kids love them. And they've got
That's great.
sweet potato, they've got Brussels sprouts, they've got spinach, they've got carrots. Yeah, all these different vegetables, all built
I
in.
love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Manette, so much. I have learned so much from you today, and I hope everyone that watches learns just as much as I have. I really, really appreciate you coming on and just explaining everything that you do and why you do it and why it's just so important, especially at this point in time when we have a lot of competing things for our attention when it comes to food. So
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, you're so wonderful to have me. Thank you so much. I'm